Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Curious Mind. Our topic for today is part second of the challenges of cultural diversity, and this is chapter 6 of class 12th Sociology. Before we start, I would like to put forth 2 points. Very first is if you have any recommendation or if you have any doubt, okay, please write it in the comment section. And second is do not use short forms and make notes along with the video, okay, and do support us and share and subscribe the video and the channel. So without any further ado, let's start with the topic. Today our topic is communities, nations and nation states. Now what is a nation? Nation is a large scale community or a community of communities, okay. So there is this desire of political unity which is expressed in the form of state. Now what we are trying to understand here is nation, and a state. Now, in general sense, state refers to an abstract entity consisting of a set of political, legal institutions claiming control over a particular geographical territory and people living in it. According to Max Weber, state is a body that successfully claims a monopoly of legitimate force in a particular territory. See, very first thing is you might find it difficult, but for definitions you need to memorize it as it is, okay. As we go through the chapter, I will explain it well as to what nation means and what a state means as we go further, okay. So initially you just need to understand that uh, state refers to political legal institution. There are these set of institutions, and there is this geographical territory, and there are people living in it, okay. And whatever Max Weber says, like a body that successfully claims a monopoly of legitimate force in a particular territory, has to be memorized as such when a person says it, quote unquote. If you don't remember the entire sentence, make sure that you don't put quotes on it, okay. Don't put inverted commas, just write it as it is, okay. So this is a tip for your exam. So let's go further. Next is we'll try to understand what a nation means. We already studied it. Now that it is a community of communities, right? So nation, members of a nation, they share a desire to be part of some political collectivity, same political collectivity. So they would like to be a part of some um, political action, or okay, so they want to be collectively involved in a particular political action. See, it is very easier, it is very easy to describe a nation, but it is very hard to define it. Why? Because there are no defining features or characteristics. As we say, ki, there are no significant, or there are no defining features that a nation must possess, okay. For instance, there are certain nations that are founded on the basis of common culture, history, religion, language, ethnicity. And then there are some nations that are not formed as they don't use language as the base of it, okay. Some nations are formed, so there is an exception to every criteria. So let's understand this. Like Pakistan and India, okay, we share we have shared culture, we all know that. We share history, we also share religion, and we also share language. It might surprise you, but we almost speak the same language, okay, North Indians and Pakistanis. So, ethnicity also we share. See, now that we share all these, but we don't belong to the same state. So we cannot say that one nation, we belong to one nation, and we should belong to one state. There is no such concept. Like every criteria has an exception. The criteria that distinguish a nation from other communities is, we already studied, nation is also a community, but it is a community of communities. So how do you differ a nation from communities? Nations are communities that have a state of their own. So let's for starting, let's start with this, that these are those communities that have a state of their own. That is why nation state is joined with a hyphen, okay. So in recent times there is this one to one bond between a nation and a state. See, don't use short forms, okay. Here it is between. So one nation one state, or vice versa. Nowadays this is a new concept. Firstly, one to one bond, like one nation and one state. So one nation should be, it should try and form one state. So now, while you understand this, it is important to also understand that such a bond is a new development. How? As we've seen in Soviet Union's case, it was a single state that governed people of different nations, right? Or dual citizenship laws, where citizens of a particular state can simultaneously be a part of another state also as a citizen. So a person can be citizen of two states at the same time. Okay, before we continue, let's make one point clear, which is that whenever I say state, you understand it as a country. Okay, don't think of state as literal state. Okay, state is a country when I am using it here. So as we already understood that nation, we understood nation as a community that succeeded in acquiring its own state. Now the opposite has also come true. Just as nationalities try to work towards forming a state, now states are also finding it very important to claim that they represent a nation. Okay, so state is also trying to, base their formation on, shared culture and shared history, shared religion. Okay, so we need to understand what a nation is and what a state is. Okay, so as we move further, we are going to understand it well. So further, now I think you've understood what um, just like nations are trying to work towards state, states are also trying to work towards nation. Okay, so what is a nation? Before we continue, what is a nation? Now nation is an abstract entity. Okay, nation is it basically comprises of shared culture, shared history, shared religion. Okay, now what is a state? uh, let's make it very clear. For a state to exist, okay, in a very general sense, for a state to exist, it needs a geographical territory. Very first, it needs a geographical territory. Second, it needs people who are living in that geographical territory, defined geographical territory. Second is people. Third is that those people should be governed by the government. Okay, they should be governed by government. So third point is government, and that government should be sovereign. Okay, so sovereign is that you're free to make laws. Okay, externally also and internally also. So there are four things: this territory, there are people, government, and sovereignty. Generally, it is said that state comprises of these generally. Okay, so today, uh, the nation is the most accepted justification for a state, while people are the ultimate source of legitimacy of the nation. We can see it in India also. Like, we, the people, have given the constitution to ourselves. Okay, we, the people. So we have the power. So legitimacy, we are the ultimate source of legitimacy for the nation. Therefore, states need the nation as much or even more than the nation needs state. Okay, so nowadays people understand, states have tried to understand, as like the nation is the most accepted justification. That is, states are understood as nations these days. Now, most countries, they're very suspicious of cultural diversity. Now, we'll know why we are studying nation or states or nation states while we study cultural diversity. Because countries are very suspicious of cultural diversity and they have tried to reduce and eliminate it. But on the other hand, India is a successful example of a strong nation state without having to homogenize different communities into a standard type. So, let's understand what it means. See, why are countries suspicious of cultural diversity? Um, See, what happens is, even if you are four to five of friends, okay, and like every person has a different choice. You want to eat different food, but what happens is you come to a particular cuisine that you will eat that today. Okay, so what happens is when you're very diverse, okay, if you have diverse food tastes, what will happen? There'll be a chaos. So what happens is countries try to reduce and eliminate it. So for countries, chaos is cultural diversity. Okay, so for countries, diversity is the major. They take it is a challenge basically. Okay, so they try to reduce it. They try to eliminate it. They try to homogenize people. so that they can be easier to control and manage. Okay, because states need to be controlled. Now, next, what we will be studying is assimilation and integration. Now, both these policies, let's understand what these two are, and it is written in the box of the book. I thought I will also make this understand because it is important um, to understand cultural diversity. Let's start with assimilationist policy. Now, it often involves outright suppression of identities of ethnic, religious, or linguistic groups, where ethnic, religious, and linguistic groups are suppressed, like outrightly suppressed, okay? Whereas integrationists are, they seek to assert a single national identity, and they try to eliminate all those ethno-national or cultural differences. And they say that all these differences, they are eliminated from public and political arena, while they are said that they can follow it in private domain. So what you need to understand here is that both assume a singular national identity. For both of them, nation has a singular identity. For example, the examples given were a unified legal and judicial system is there in a country which is based on dominant groups' traditions, where you abolish alternative systems, okay, or you adopt a dominant group's language as national language and you make its usage mandatory. So what happens is both of these policies, they assume a singular national identity. So they try to suppress or reduce or eliminate or fit into private sphere. Okay, both these try it, and they try to eliminate, reduce cultural diversity. Okay, both these policies. So there is a danger of dominant group's culture being treated as national culture. This is the major danger. What happens is when you try to incorporate everything, so the dominant group's culture becomes, if dominant group's culture becomes national culture, then what happened? Then national or see, then the minorities will be hurt. Now minorities can be religious minorities also, linguistic minorities also, regional minorities also, they can be any kind of minority. So there is no necessary relationship between any specific form of community or and the modern state. Okay, so there is no off, please delete this off. Okay, so there is no necessary relationship, there is no must has here. Community identities can act as the basis for nation, they can act, okay. They can act as the basis for nation formation. States see all forms of community identity as dangerous rivals, because for state needs to favor a single homogeneous national identity in the hope of being able to control and manage it. Okay, I already told you states favor single homogeneous identity because you want to manage it. Okay, so man has always tried to simplify things. Why? Because man needs to manage it. So what happens is, while it's okay to manage, but then you try and start suppressing cultural diversity. See, suppressing cultural diversity can be very costly. Okay, it has its own consequences, and which are not good for the nation. Now, suppression can intensify community identity. Once you start suppressing certain minorities, they will try and get up and fight for their rights, right? So that intensification is there. Identity, uh, intensification of community identity is there. People try and intensify, and they try and mobilize their group or community. Okay, so therefore encouraging, or at least a nation should allow cultural diversity. As I already told, India is a good example of a strong nation state which has cultural diversity also, and it is trying its level best to hold it in a better place. So cultural diversity, either you encourage it, if you can't encourage it, at least allowing it is a good policy, practically also, because in the long run it is a good thing, and principally also. Okay, so this is what nation state nation state and its relationship with different communities, okay, and how we need to understand them. One thing, you need to make sure that there is no particular definition of anything. Okay, so you need to understand it in different contexts, and In the next video, we'll be studying about India, how whether India is a nation state or a state nation. Okay, so India is will be for another video. This is it for today. I hope you understand it, and if you like it, please share and subscribe. Until then, please stay at home, stay safe, and study hard. Thank you.